this wealth and this money, and I just want to be happy, and I just want. There's a seed being created that is the opposite of that shit, guys. And when you nurture one, the other one also needs to be fed. What logical sense does it make to actually feed a bad seed or nourish a bad seed? Why would you even want to, knowing what it's going to manifest? Now, here's where we come into the door of harmony, as I was speaking again in that video. But this is more going more in depth about the situation here when we're talking about balance. So when you're nourishing the good seed, the resistance to what the opposition is what makes the opposition grow. I'll say that again. When you're nourishing the good seed, because we're talking about balance, so we are dealing with good and bad here. When you're nourishing the good seed, there's a part of the resistance to that bad seed is actually what's making it grow. So you ignoring the ignoring the shadows, ignoring the darkness, ignoring what we would call what's negative or what we would call what is bad, whatever that is, as it is associated with what is good to you. Whatever that is, you ignoring it and you resisting it and acting as if it doesn't exist, it's still holding weight on the scale. And when you only nourish one part and forget about the other, guess what happens? Something gets heavy. The scale starts really just bugging out. The scale actually starts malfunctioning. You might break that motherfucker, right? And just completely lose it. And that's when people lose their mind. That's when people really, they've broken that part, and this is where that false sense of self-righteousness comes in, and all of that is just good, light, nourish this, nourish that. I'm watering my plants, and as you're doing that, you're not even facing another side of yourself that is actually being manifested, and that will eventually work against what is being nourished. It will eventually want to consume it, because if it's starved, it's kind of like choosing to water one plant over the other. And that's fucked up. You know what I mean? So it's like the death of that plant on the other side that got no water somehow will send a signal to the other plant that is getting all the fucking water and will end up killing that goddamn plant somehow. You know what I mean? That positive, watery, nurtured plant will end up feeling the wraths of the plant that was neglected. That's how deep this shit goes. So, not to just leave this hanging, how do you enter the doors of harmony then? Right? Because it's impossible to enter the doors of harmony if you are resisting or ignoring another part of you that is indeed a thing. It is real. That is the quantum field we are talking about here. And a lot of people don't understand quantum. They don't understand that one particle actually influences the other. And we want to talk about what the actual beginning is, or which particle is the actual influencer. You might be nourishing the quote unquote bad seed. That might be the first seed, the first one. And then you're busy nourishing that, and everything is being manifested in a way that is negative. But here's the thing. When you nourish the bad seed that has all the negativity and all the darkness and all of the stuff, when you nourish that, it actually works in your favor in a way that is satisfying to you. So this is where the feelings of being masochistic or self-sabotage becomes an addiction, or there's some kind of pleasure that comes out of self-sabotage or self-destruction. That's going into the realms of addiction, because there's pleasure coming from the bad, what is considered to be bad. So when you are nourishing or being pleasured in that bad realm, right? And you are neglecting the good seed. What happens to that good seed now? It is receiving its influence from the original part that is being nourished. And it's interesting because in that way, what I'm even seeing as I'm speaking this out is that the good seed does not go in a position of consumption. It just dies. So the bad seed seems to be programmed to survive. It's the stronger one. This is how powerful, this is the darkness. The darkness is actually, it comes before the light. The light is created within the darkness. So the light, right? So it's more so of like, the good part or the good things and the great things that you want for yourself almost becomes non-existent. It just disappears and dies, and you're just left in the realm of whatever that feeling is, of whatever experience you're getting from the bad seed, which will be destruction and pleasure, destruction and pleasure, destruction and pleasure. How do you get out of that if that shit happens? How do you even reprogram yourself to say, wait a second, I need to like get out of this and start all over from a new spiral with a new seed? And this is how we learn. There's no good or bad way or direction to go with this thing, because what it starts as the first particle of influence is whatever you're focused on the most first. That's the seed that you're going to plant first. So it would make sense to at least go for what it is that you want. What are the positive things in your life that you want? And create that. And then the anti is automatically created. Therefore, it becomes influenced by the first particle, which is the good seed. Now, how do you harmonically work these things together? You don't resist the bad seed. You don't ignore the bad seed. You don't judge the bad seed. You just allow it to be what it is. That is all that's need to be done. But all of this programming that is set up for us to choose sides within ourselves, that's what fucks it all up, because now we're an automatic judging this side of us that actually exists, that actually is a part of our world and our paradigm. So when you do that, when you just at least say, that's why I said the first rule of shadow work is acceptance. When you just accept that part of you is there, that in itself brings a nourishment that doesn't cause it to consume you or to come after you as a fucking enemy. It just says, oh, she sees or he sees this part of himself and is not attacking it and is not judging it. Wow. That actually is freaking amazing. And guess who has the keys? Guess what side has the keys to the actual party called harmony? I'm gonna let that just sit just for a moment. Who has the keys to all the fun spaces? When we're talking about they even call it underground. I remember old New York, right? Old New York, we had underground. It was a huge underground scene. And, you had to know somebody to know somebody to know somebody to get into the really exclusive spots where all of the artists were. The artists, the up and coming, the celebrities, all of that mixed in one. And this was the underground spaces, was a space where all of these amazing fucking artists and celebrated people were able to have fun, party, do what they wanted to do without worrying about being watched, without worrying about being having some crazy fans come over. There was this all equalized level of respect and privacy and non-judgment. That was the underground scene, the underground partying. You had a choice on what you wanted to do, but you wasn't judging somebody else for doing what they was doing underground.